Location of files. So since we have been talking about different types of numbering, we have discussed different methods of filings and varieties and procedures that we can use in allocations in locating files. So we want to know, and I want to talk about how paper-based medical records are filed and where they can be filed and where they can be found when times of identifications comes. So if you're thinking of identifying your files, you must be reminded of the method you use in filings, because like we said, our methods of identifications depends on the methods of filings. So where can we find our files? Where can the files be located? It's a very important question. So that's what we are going to talk about. So files locations can either be centralized location or decentralized location. So we may have files centralized, or we may have files decentralized. All right. So like I said, we have two ways of locating files, centralized and decentralized. So we want to talk about these two concepts of file locations, and that is centralized filings and decentralized filings. So what we mean by centralized filings? Well, centralized filings is the filings of records of patients from different units or departments in one locations under a same number of health records, usually in the health records department. So that is when, for example, if we have a patient called Mr. Ogwang, where a patient called Mr. Wang, and Mr. Wang was seen or treated at OPD. Mr. Wang was as well treated at emergency department. Mr. Wang was as well treated at heart clinic. So meaning each and all of this department has been generating records, of which in this case of centralized filings, if your facility is using other systems of centralized filings, it means at the end of the day, you must go to all these departments and collect the records of Mr. Wang and bring them together in one locations under one health record number, and then you will file them in health records department. So then we shall call that kind of filings centralized filings. The word centralized is simply coming from the word center. So it simply means that all the records from all the department is collected together and files in one locations. Doesn't matter where you were treated from, it doesn't matter where your records was generated from, but all that matters is that all these records are collected and files then are stored in one locations within the medical record department, and they should be stored under one health record number, because the patients may have different records. They may have inpatient records, they may have emergency records, they may have ambulatory care records, but all these records are brought together in one unit record, or at least file under the same health record number in the same place. So that is what will definitely happen we have this kind of care that is called ambulatory care. I'll give you a very simple example. When a patient has been picked from home under critical condition and transported, using the hospital ambulance, you find that the ambulance will consist of the nurses that will be giving first aid and some other care to the patients as the patient is being transported. And all these services that they are offering in the process of transporting a patient will be recorded down. So those records that are created on the process of the journey will should also be brought uh, to the facility and files within the medical record department under one number. So ambulatory care units becomes part of the units of the facility as well. Right. So the main objectives of health record department is to maintain continuous medical records of our patients, which is available at all times, and of which the best way to achieve these objectives is to establish a centralized unit record system. So it is a very simple thing that we should be aware of, that the objectives of the medical record department is to ensure that uh, records of patients are maintained continuously and they should always be available at all times. And the only way you can make this possible is to use a filing system called centralized unit record systems, so that it will be very easy for you to allocate your records. It will as well be very easy for you to access your records in one place. Because, for example, you see when you're looking for something and that one piece of the form is on other department, the other side is on the other department, and yet you are supposed to combine them together and use them at the same time. Probably you waste time in trying to locate them because one part is missing, the other section is missing, the other section is not there. So it would be very easier if we have all these system. Uh, we have all these records are kept under one record number within one location. All right. So in a centralized unit record system, there is some of the people may be asking but we have different types of numbers. So if I'm to centralize my records, which types of numbers should I use? The types of numbers you will choose to use will depend on the interest of the facility and also the level of the services offered in that facility. Because if you think of alphabetical filing system as a method, probably that will not be an extensive to be used within that facility that has high rates of admissions, that has high rates of readmissions. The number of patients that are treated per day is very high. So you cannot use alphabetical filing system. So the method that you will choose, it will nobody have the a compulsions for you to decide on that. You'll be able to make that decision by the medical records committee within the medical record department and the facility as well, depending on the interests of the facility. So we may not have the specific answers for that because that decision must be made at hospital level on which types of the numbering systems we should use. But preferably, we use terminal digits filings and also numerical filing system. We use numbers. We file the records basing on numbers rather than basing on the names because we have seen the disadvantages of all these systems and also their advantages, and that's where our decision was based on. So ideally, for good control, all medical information about patients should be stored in one folder, in one location or file. So I suggest that you will need to collect all these pieces of the information of a particular patient from various departments, and then you keep them in one file. You need to get one file and keeps all these pieces of information that belongs to one patient in that file. Then you must give them one number, even if they were generated from various departments. So it will help you a lot to ensure that the informations are always available, and retrieving them becomes simple for even the person who has no formal procedure or formal knowledge in carrying out the activity. So now let's talk about advantages of centralized filing system. What is the benefit of using this system in your facility? Number one, using centralized filing system will ensure efficient operations of functional departmental activities. When you have all your records kept in one location under one number, there is a high percentage that, or a high probability that your department will be able to continuously functioning without any gaps, and also the speed of operations will be high, and definitely the standard of services within the facility will highly be recommended. Number two, the systems ensure safety of papers or records. Probably when if we can say that each and every department should take care of their records, some of them may not have the complete knowledge of protecting their records from other enemies of records, therefore leading to a loss of records, record iterations, and other damages. But if the records are collected and brought in one location and is managed by a professional medical records officer, professional medical record assistant, that means our records or papers will always be safe from other things to do with, for example, confidentiality, privacy, dignity, and all that. Number three, it is easy. It is the maintenance of confidentiality. It is the maintenance of confidentiality. When you're using this system, of course, protecting confidentiality becomes very simple because you are going to be guarding one locations. But if you have various locations, you may not be able to control what is happening in those departments in your absence. So the confidentiality may be breaches and all that. But of course, what I mean by confidentiality is the rights of patients to have their information kept private, and simply means we will not allow other people to use the information. The people we call they are, unauthorized users, so they're not allowed to access the information. Because the moment they do that, that means we are breaching the rights of the patients to have their information kept private. Another thing is that there is a greater efficiency of functional operations. So we are not expecting any wasting of time, for example, because there will be easy accessibility of records in time as we need them, and probably it will ensure efficient service delivery at the facility as per the objectives of the medical record department. The other thing we can talk about is that the system reduce the cost incurred on employment. Probably this may be of disadvantage on the side of the employees, the people, the job seekers. But of course, as far as the system is concerned, if the record is kept in one location, the facility would need few staff to manage the records. But for example, if each department is keeping their own records, that means each department or each unit needs to have a trained personnel. So it will incur high cost for the facility. So the method will serve a lot in reducing the cost of employment within a facility or organization. The next thing is that it is suitable and visible methods if the functional departments of organizations are located in different geographical areas. So when For example, if you have let's say units, those units we are talking about becomes the organizations. Let me give you an example. We have the organization called uh, GRC. I think that is Joint Clinical Research Center, something like that. And let's say that organization have a office. They are working in various hospitals in Uganda, and then that means they need to compile all their statistics from different facilities, and then makes their presentation. So if they are using these systems where all the records are centralized, it would be very easy for them to do the comparisons, data analysis, and presentation. Uh, in even in the terms of cost, because if you have different locations, definitely you will need to be traveling in each and every department, I mean locations, in order to process and summarize your data for uh, presentation, decision making, and all that. All right, let's talk about disadvantages. Disadvantage of using this system is that it require well-trained staff to avoid misfiring. Because if you're keeping records in one location, one thing you should expect is that there will be high volumes of records. The volumes of record will be very high, and of which in an area where there is high volume of records, one thing that it is common, it is misfirings. Yeah, so it may be possible in the case where someone is not well trained. Next is that the records becomes more vulnerable, therefore increases the risk of loss of records. So when the department is having high volumes of records, the records becomes uh, something that is, I mean, can simply either get lost or be damaged. So the risk of the records getting lost and being damaged is very high. Because when something becomes vulnerable of something, it simply means you can be a victim of whatever things that can be the context. So the next we can say that there may be delay in making files available since the whole work will be performed by few staff. So like we said in the advantages, that it will reduce the cost incurred in employment, meaning they will employ few staff because the system doesn't need very many staff. Now the problem will also be that uh, making files available may be very hard since the whole work will be carried out by few staff. Uh, Another thing is that there is high chance of misfiling, therefore leading to unnecessary delays in tracing of documents. Yeah, we can talk about having few staff when we want two people as I mean trying to trace a records from a millions files. It would be very difficult to make a records available immediately because few staff are performing the job. And also we talked about misfilings which may be possible because of the high volumes of records. And then in this case, when there is high volume of records, probably what we shall also expect is the delays of providing the records or tracing a document. If you are looking for one document among 1 million documents, you know what I mean. Another problem is that telephone inquiries cannot always be answered immediately if records are not on hands. Since the records, I mean, the department will have high volumes of records, and we have some of the requests that comes on phone call that please can you retrieve for me a form, I mean, a files number 164. Now, and the staff are very few, and of course you are alone. So the person who call you may end up saying, please, can you hold on, call me back after 5 minutes, let me first search for it. So you see, there will not be a chance of maybe making these records available as soon as they have been requested. So that would be a problem, and that would be based on high volumes of records and few staff that are operating. And the next thing is that the systems results in staff increase costs in terms of employment. Now, the moment you realize that we said that the advantage is that it will reduce the cost, but also here it will actually increase the cost. Why? Because you will experience the problems of delays of tracing a document. You will experience problems on delays on making files available, and definitely it will force you to employ more staff. See, so let's say it will affect you in terms of employment. All right, so let's talk about decentralized filing. Yeah, it is the opposite of centralized filing. So in centralized filing, we said that we are keeping all records of patient from various units in one location. So in this case, this is where records are kept in different departments. So each department create their own records, and then we don't bring them together. Each and every department in this case now will keep their own records. So it's the opposite of the other one. So we say decentralized filing is the filing of patients' health records in multiple patients' care areas. So the multiple patients' care areas would be outpatient units, inpatients, emergency, ambulatory care units, all of that. So each and every department, whenever they see the patient, they keep on their own records there. So, and also, if you're using this system, it is also important that you ensure strict supervision, because when records are scattered in various departments, there are many things that can happen, like we have looked at above there in the disadvantages there. Things may happen where records are put in different locations because they may be using different methods of filing, and those people who are there, most of them may not be well trained. So you expect a lot of problems if the record is needed for any purpose. So let's talk about disadvantages. Number one, the system ensures security. The system ensures secrecy of documents and enable individual departments to carry on their work independently. So probably when you are to use this system, one of the things that you will be sure of is that the information will be secure, because each and every department will be taking care of their records, and probably there will be no issue of the high volume of records. So secrecy is the actions of keeping something secret, or the state of being kept secret. So probably people who are there, they may highly practice, first of all, ensuring that the information is secure from unauthorized users. People should not access the information. What you are protecting, or what they are protecting, is confidentiality. Yeah. Next is that this system save time. How? We have time wasted there when you're using centralized filing system. One, you're supposed to bring all the records from different departments together. So there you will use time. You need time. In most cases, even you may need things to do with the resources. Uh, Other thing is that you need enough space to keep all these records together in one location, and you need a lot of uh, policies or a lot of requirement to be put in place, the like of the shelves that can keep records of high volumes. So this system will save times if you are to use it in this case. Another thing is that specialized knowledge about concerned department will eliminate the chances of misfiling. We are assuming that if someone stays in one department for a very long time, because at the facility I made some studies when we were trying to carry out some data analysis. Then we realized that there are people who works as record assistant, but they have been working in, for example, in a heart clinic for since they were given the job, and that means if they have worked there for 10 years, they have more experience in that department alone. So when they go to that department, they know nothing. So that's where we are calling specialized knowledge about a concerned department. So they becomes a very expertise there, and of which it also help a lot uh, reducing the issues of misfiling since someone is well versed of that department. All right. Next thing is that the department staff normally does the work of filings by themselves. Hence, additional costs for appointing specialized staff for the filing department is avoided. So probably when someone is a specialized, have a specialized knowledge concerning certain department, definitely you wouldn't need to hire any other person or a private person to come and do the filings for you. That person can be able to do that. So that cost will be cut. The disadvantages is that one, no standardized procedures shall be followed throughout the organization, including filing equipment. Yeah, there will be no standards of systems. Other people will be using alphabetical filings. Other department will be using numerical. Others will choose because any system that they are used to, that is what they would wish. So standardization may not be there. Secondly, additional space and equipment shall not be, shall be provided in each functional department. Therefore, it increases the cost of operations. Of course, if you have like inpatient department, emergency, heart clinic, ambulatory care department, all of them must have a medical record department. And of course, they must have equipment like folders, like shelves. So in order to keep their records, and what will happen, the cost of operation will increase. Next, there is high chance of record duplication due to the request that may be sent from various departments. So this means if a doctor needs the records must be requested from all these departments at the same time. So what do you expect? Some of the department they may not produce the correct records. They may duplicate and submit something different. So that's a problem. Another thing is that there will be no uniformity in filing procedures because department will adopt its own procedure. I've talked about that. A procedure of, let's say, procedure of filing and the filing method, identification methods. People will choose different things. So there will be no uniformity in that context. The next is that the movement of the file cannot be controlled. Therefore, files can be mislaid, making difficulty in locations of files. So you don't know who borrowed the records from the department, who did not return the records, etc. Because each and every department, they are doing what they can based on what they believe is right. So it makes supervision difficult, and of which it will affect the procedures of locating or laying the files in cases where the person who is performing the task is not well versed of the procedure. We have other considerations in filing systems, other things that we still need to consider them even when we are doing the filings. It's very important. The first thing is what we call loose sheets. Yeah, the filings of loose sheets or loose reports. The example of loose sheets are laboratory results, X-rays, correspondence. Correspondence. These are some of the requests that comes, which are including the patient details from different departments or different medical personnel, and what we call late reports. So when you are thinking of this, you should not underestimate, you shouldn't undermine these kind of records that we call loose reports. They are very important. They are very important. So one thing you should know that is filing this kind of loose reports, it is time-consuming activity. Is the most time-consuming activity in a medical record department because we may have some of the records coming in that they don't even have enough information. Therefore, we cannot file them immediately. We still need to create a space for them. We keep them. We wait for the complete records and we file them. Meaning we are supposed to do some verification. We make sure we match these correspondences or the reports that are coming from the laboratory so that we don't mislead them and creating gaps in filing procedure. So it is time consuming and you don't need to take it and seriously. So incoming loose reports can be divided into two groups. Those reports that are coming, that are coming to the department. We have those patients who were told to go and do the screening, go and do the X-ray, go and test their bloods. So they will be bringing the results. So what do? You will be having the information. Those with sufficient identification, record number and the name. You will have those ones, and then you will have those ones that doesn't have anything, that of which you still need time to find out the exact record number, because there are those incoming losses that they will come without identification number, without the name of the patient, and therefore that means they will not be ready for filings. But those who will come with a sufficient identification number, they will be ready for filings, and those one you can file them. So you need to prepare or divide these loose sheets into two groups. Those that have enough information, you put them aside, and then those that you still need times to work on them, and give them the number and the names, you identify the owners, you also put them separately. So loose reports are sorted by record number, and after verifying the patient's identification data are filed in the records. This should be done without much delay within the department. If you receive a loose report, even if it's having enough information that you can file, or it doesn't have enough information, and you will still need to do the arrangement so quick, because they can easily get lost. They're very small in terms of the sizes. They're also very light in terms of the material, and they are also very delicate in terms of damages. Because for the like of some of the receipts of the lab tests, we have some of the reports of liver function tests. They are made on kind of thing that even if it stays on a hot surface for a long time, you find the information is just start disappearing because of the material of the paper. And then also we have X-ray. X-ray is made of a seal, which in terms of image, of course, of which if you take long to file them, or maybe you keep them safe, that's why they're always kept in envelope, because some of the information may start losing their values, whereby by the time the facility want to use it, other information may not be very clear. Yeah, they can erase so fast. So you can make sure that you do the filings, or maybe separating these records, these loose sheets, into two groups within at least 24 hours. Yeah, to avoid them getting lost from the department. So another consideration of record department, of filings, we have what we call voluminous records. Voluminous records is the word voluminous is coming from the terms volumes. Volumes of records, it only means you have high records for one patient, very many records. For example, like you may have a patient, Emma, and then Emma has, let's say, 5 files. How can one patient have 5 files? It is because one patient might have been treated in that facility for a very long time. So when the patient came, you created the first file and that one get full. Again, you created another file and that one get full. Because when the file is getting full, you need to create a what? Another file for keeping new records. So until the patient have 5 different files. But all these 5 different files must bear one record number. 2, they must be filed in one location. So when you are filing them, you must name them. The first one which was created, the first file, you will name that one volume 1. The second file that got filled, you will name that one volume 1, 2. The third one, volume 3. The fourth one, volume 4. The fifth one, volume 5. Like that. So when you're filing, this one will go down, this one will follow, this one will follow, this one will follow, and this will be on top. So this will be the recent records, and this will be the old records. But of course, the information from all these files may be needed to carry out patient's care. So that's what we mean by voluminous records. One patient may have a lot of records within a facility, of which may definitely cause if you don't keep them in one files, in one location, if you don't name them that this is for Emma volume 1, the first file, this is the second file, this is the third file, this is the fifth file. So that is what we do. Yeah, and then you can actually be able to name them as V1, V2, V3, but also we have another way of naming them. You can also say if Emma is having five records, you may say the first file you will write volume 1, volume 1 out of volume 5. It means Emma have, this is the file you're having in your hand is the first file, but out of 5. Then the other one will be volume 2 out of volume 5. And the other one will be volume 3 out of volume 5. Then the other one will be volume 4 out of volume 5. Then the next one will have volume 5 out of volume 5. If the file number 5th gets full again, you will create another file, and then that files become volume 6 out of now volume 1, 6, because it's the number 6 and out of 6 files. So you have files number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. So then they're supposed to be filed together, kept in one location. So when the facility requests for the patient's records, they may be requesting for the recent one. So it depends. But all of them must remain active. Whether the facility used the first one, or they use the third one, or they use the fourth one, all of them remain active because they belong to one patient, that the medical history may need to be viewed and used at any time. So you can take a look at this. The notation is what we are meaning by V1 out of V5. That's a common term that are used in mathematics, so you don't need to get confused with that. So you will actually take a look at this area for more clarification. All right, so the other consideration in filing number 3, we have what we call special flagging. Special flagging is a good way of attracting the immediate attention of the records user to important information. So what do you do to attract the attention of the user? If you are writing a letter, for example, and you want a person to see a certain part, a certain line or paragraph without missing, how do you attract their attention? You have to bold that word to make it seen easily. You can either use different color to make it be seen easily, etc. So those are things that you can use to attract the attention of the user. So we also have that, and one of the things is that we write words in capital letters. For example, important things in medical records. I mean, in medical history of a patient, like when a patient is allergic to penicillin, we have to write it in capital. But of course, it's not you who is supposed to write it. The doctor is supposed to write it in capital so that whoever uses that medical record, their attention will be drawn to that area for the concern. Then, for example, if a patient having is a patient of renal dialysis, it's the same thing. Those must be in capital letters in order to draw the attention of the user to the most important area in the information.